Welcome, friends. This is A Course in Miracles Palm Beach Study Group.
What page?
Today we're on page 127 in the text. It's chapter 7, section 7, the totality of the kingdom. Whenever you deny a blessing to a brother, you will feel deprived, because denial is as total as love. It is as impossible to deny part of the sonship as it is to love it in part. Nor is it possible to love it totally at times. You cannot be totally committed sometimes. Denial has no power in itself, but you can give it the power of your mind, whose power is without limit. If you use it to deny reality, reality is gone for you. Reality cannot be partly appreciated. That is why denying any part of it means you have lost the awareness of all of it. Yet denial is a defense, and so it is capable of being used positively as well as negatively. Used negatively, it will be destructive because it will be used for attack. But in the service of the Holy Spirit, it can help you recognize part of reality and thus appreciate all of it. Mind is too powerful to be subject to exclusion. You will never be able to exclude yourself from your thoughts. I'm going to go over that again. Whenever you deny a blessing to your brother, well, how do you do that? Well, if you have a thought of criticism, jealousy, hatred, any of those type of negative judgments, that would be denying a blessing. So whenever you deny a blessing to a brother, meaning anybody else in the whole wide world, you will feel deprived because there's only one of us. We are each other. And then it says, because denial is as total as love. So love is spirit, denial is ego, and they're both total. It's one way or the other. Then it says, it is impossible to deny part of the sonship as it is to love it in part. In other words, you can't say, oh, well, I love so-and-so, but this other one is a SOB, and when you think that's special love, as the Course teaches it. And that doesn't work, because whoever you're thinking negatively about is automatically being given to those that you want to think positively about. So it just doesn't work. You cannot be totally committed sometimes. It has to be all of the time. Then it says denial has no power in itself. We know that the ego has no power in itself, but you can give it the power of your mind, because our minds are all powerful. And so if we give that power to the ego, then the ego's gaining power from our own will. So 6, it says, if you use it to deny reality. Remember, reality is another word for spirit. If you use your mind, that's the it. If you use your mind to deny spirit, then spirit is gone for you. Reality, spirit, cannot be partly appreciated. Again, and they say it over and over again, it's all or nothing. This is why denying any part of it, of spirit, means you have lost the awareness of all of it. Yet denial is a defense, when that's what ego wants us to do, to become defensive. And so it is capable of being used positively as well as negatively. It's as if you're denying the ego, you could be using the denial positively. Using negatively, denying negatively will be destructive because it will be used for attack. That's the ego. But in the service of the Holy Spirit, it can help you recognize part of reality and thus appreciate all of it. So if you can get any foothold at all in appreciating spirit, then you've got a foothold in appreciating all of spirit. Mind is too powerful to be subject to exclusion. It's very powerful. So it's going to be up to you. You have free will. You will never be able to exclude yourself from your thoughts. Going back to the beginning, if you're thinking negatively about anybody, you are thinking negatively about yourself. You will never be able to exclude yourself from your thoughts. Any questions, comments? If you want to speak, Suzanne, you have to unmute.
What you mean is you can't have selective perception when it comes to this.
That's right.
Well, today was that kind of test for me, let me tell you.
Well, every day is that kind of a test for all of us. Really. No, I have to stop myself from making negative judgments and criticizing thoughts about people all the time. I just see someone walking down the street and my thought may be some sort of negative thought. I have to stop myself. It says, no, 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 no. I have to acknowledge the spirit within that person. I have to send love to that person. I can't have any room in my mind for negative thoughts about anyone, because if I do, it'll just come back. I mean, that's what karma is. Whatever you do comes back on you.
Well, those kind of reactions, visual reactions to people who are whatever, that's not it for me. That's not what upsets, gets me knocked over. It's when I'm disappointed in people.
Oh, yes. It's very easy to be disappointed in people because nobody can do it as good as you can.
Not a question of that.
No? Okay. What is it then? Explain.
Well, when someone breaks a promise, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not a question of I can do it better than you. It's not Annie Oakley. It's not that kind of thing. It's just disappointment.
Right.
And it's hard not to feel, heart sunken along those lines. And I don't know if it's judgment, but I guess it is judgment. And it just takes the heart out of me,
I understand that. Yeah, especially if somebody lets you down.
Well, yeah, it lets
promise.
themselves down, lets themselves down and doesn't keep up with the promises made, that kind of thing. That's where I don't judge as much as I guess I do judge. I just kind of think,
Well, the good thing, though, Suzanne, is that you're cognizant enough to realize.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, that's half the battle. What is it that they say in AA? Something about you have to be aware of your addiction before you can, I don't know, I'm not an AA, but I've heard something.
You have to own it. You have to own
Yeah,
it.
you have to own it to be able to
You
fix
have
it.
to own it now in order to let it go. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
Um,
the same principle here.
mm, yeah, it is the same principle.
Shall we move on?
Yes, let's move on.
All righty then. So we're on paragraph 2. When a brother acts insanely, like not keeping his promise,
We
he,
used to go around and share in the reading. Now you're reading the whole thing.
I always read the whole thing first, and then I ask for,
I thought we used to go around the table and we each read a section. That's the
well,
way.
when we were meeting in person, we did that sometime.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on Zoom, we haven't done that at all.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay,
Just
okay.
asking myself. Go ahead.
When a brother acts insanely, he is offering you an opportunity to bless him. His need is yours. You need the blessing you can offer him. There is no way for you to have it except by giving it. This is the law of God, and it has no exceptions. What you deny, you lack, not because it is lacking, but because you have denied it in another and are therefore not aware of it in yourself. Every response you make is determined by what you think you are, and what you want to be is what you think you are. What you want to be then must determine every response you make. So when a brother acts insanely, doing anything negative, that's an opportunity for you to bless him, for you to respond by saying, I forgive you, you're a child of God, you're a spirit equal unto myself, where there's only one of us, and so I offer you my blessing, my forgiveness. And because all of these people are like mirror images to us, we have to be able to look at everyone we see and realize that we're looking at a mirror. No matter who they are, no matter what they're doing or how they're behaving or whatever they're saying, they are a mirror. And if we can't love them and offer them forgiveness, then we're not loving ourselves and offering ourselves the forgiveness, the blessing. There is no way for you to have except by giving. That's God's law. If you want anything, you have to give it first. This is the law of God, and it has no exceptions. Any comments, questions?
I've lived by that. You know,
Good.
I've always lived by that rule. And often, people, I've often defended it by saying, it doesn't matter which part of the equation you're in, as long as you're in the equation of love.
Oh, good.
Getting, you, as long as you're in that equation, you're in love. And I agree with that.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Well, let's move on to paragraph 3 then. You do not need God's blessing because that you have forever, but you do need yours. The ego's picture of you is deprived, unloving, and vulnerable. You cannot love this. Yet you can very easily escape from this image by leaving it behind. You are not there, and that is not you. Do not see this picture in anyone, or you have accepted it as you. All illusions about the sonship are dispelled together as they were made together. Teach no one that he is what you would not want to be. Your brother is the mirror in which you see the image of yourself as long as perception lasts. And perception will last until the sonship knows itself as whole. You made perception, and it must last as long as you want it. Paragraph 4. Illusions are investments. They will last as long as you value them. Values are relative, but they are powerful because they are mental judgments. The only way to dispel illusions is to withdraw all investment from them, and they will have no life for you because you will have put them out of your mind. While you include them in it, you are giving life to them, except there is nothing there to receive your gift. So remember, illusions are of the ego. And as long as you value the ego will be there. And the only way to dispel the ego is to withdraw. Just leave it be. Turn around and walk away. And then they'll have no life because you're not putting any life into it. When you include ego, you're giving life to ego. Paragraph 5. The gift of life is yours to give because it was given you. You are unaware of your gift because you do not give it. You cannot make nothing live, since nothing cannot be enlivened. Therefore, you are not extending the gift you both have and are, and so you do not know your being. All confusion comes from not extending life, because that is not the will of your Creator. You can do nothing apart from Him, and you do nothing apart from Him. Keep His way to remember yourself, and teach His way, lest you forget yourself. Give only honor to the sons of the living God, and count yourself among them gladly. Let's go over that paragraph. The gift of life is yours to give because God gave the gift of life to you. But you are unaware of your gift because you do not give it. Or to put it the other way, if you do not give it, then you are not aware of it because you only have what you give. It just told us that. You cannot make nothing live. In other words, you cannot make the ego live because life is of God. The ego is an illusion. So when it says you cannot make nothing live, it's saying you cannot make ego live, since nothing, ego, cannot be enlivened. Ego can't live, it's an illusion. Therefore, you are not extending the gift you both have and are, as long as you are trying to be ego-centered. And so you do not know your being. You don't know yourself. Because if you knew yourself, you'd know you were a spirit, a son of God. And all of this confusion comes from not extending life, not extending your spiritual life. Because by not doing that, that's not the will of the Creator. The Creator wills that you do extend your spiritual life, that you send it out, that you share it. And you can do nothing apart from Spirit, from Him, from God. And you do nothing when you are apart from Him. If you're not doing it with love and forgiveness, then you're doing basically nothing. You're doing ego. So keep His way to remember yourself. Let the Father's will be done. And teach His way. Remember, we teach by doing. Everything we do, we're teaching. And or else we'll forget who we are. Give only honor to the sons of the living God, and count yourself among them gladly. Any questions, comments? Okay, let's move on then. Are you speaking, Suzanne? You're muted.
And let's wake up David.
Oh, David's just taking it all in. He's being a sponge tonight.
Okay, well, okay, he's nodding. Okay, good. All right.
Did you have any comments, David? Well, you're muted. So, I guess not. If you're not,
I'm immutable.
you're immutable. In that case, I'm just going to mute you again, both of you, and we're going to move on. We're on paragraph 6. Only honor is a fitting gift for those whom God Himself created worthy of honor and whom He honors. Give them the appreciation God accords them always, because they are His beloved sons in whom He is well pleased. You cannot be apart from them because you are not apart from Him. Rest in His love and protect your rest by loving. But love everything He created, of which you are a part, or you cannot learn of His peace and accept His gift for yourself and as yourself. You cannot know your own perfection until you have honored all those who were created like you. I don't think that needs any interpretation, except to say that honoring is the same thing as loving, is the same thing as forgiving. We honor by loving and forgiving. So paragraph 7. One child of God is the only teacher sufficiently worthy to teach another. One teacher is in all minds, and he teaches the same lesson to all. He always teaches you the inestimable worth of every son of God, teaching it with infinite patience, born of the infinite love for which he speaks. Every attack is a call for his patience. since his patience can translate attack into blessing. Those who attack do not know they are blessed. They attack because they believe they are deprived. Give, therefore, of your abundance and teach your brothers theirs. Do not share their illusions of scarcity, or you will perceive yourself as lacking. So again, that's the oneness of us all. And it's just reiterating what it's already said, but it's using a slightly different language to say it. If you didn't get it one way, hopefully you'll get it the other way. Paragraph 8. Attack could never promote attack unless you perceive it as a means of depriving you of something you want. Yet you cannot lose anything unless you do not value it, and therefore do not want it. This makes you feel deprived of it, and by projecting your own rejection, you then believe that others are taking it from you. You must be fearful if you believe that your brother is attacking you to tear the kingdom of heaven from you. This is the ultimate basis for all the ego's projection. This paragraph is just explaining how the ego works. Any questions? Okay, then paragraph 9. Being the part of your mind that does not believe it is responsible for itself, and being without allegiance to God, the ego is incapable of trust. Projecting its insane belief that you have been treacherous to your Creator, it believes that your brothers, who are as incapable of this as you are out to take God from you. Whenever a brother attacks another, that is what he believes. Projection always sees your wishes in others. If you choose to separate yourself from God, that is what you will think others are doing to you. Again, it's just an explanation of how ego works. What paragraph 10 says, you are the will of God. In other words, you're not what the ego thinks you are. Do not accept anything else as your will, or you are denying what you are. Deny this and you will attack, believing you've been attacked. But see the love of God in you, and you will see it everywhere, because it is everywhere. See his abundance in everyone, and you will know that you are in him with them. They are part of you, as you are part of God. You are not as lonely without understanding this, as God himself is lonely when his sons do not know him. The peace of God is understanding this. There is only one way out of the world's thinking, just as there is only one way into it. Understand totally by understanding totality. Now, I just want to say that part about God being lonely, take that as metaphor. Okay. And our last paragraph, perceive any part of the ego's thought system as wholly insane, wholly delusional, and wholly undesirable, and you have correctly evaluated all of it. This correction enables you to perceive any part of creation as wholly real, wholly perfect, and wholly desirable. Wanting this only, you will have this only. And giving this only, you will be only this. The gifts you offer to the ego are always experienced as sacrifices. But the gifts you offer to the kingdom are gifts to you. They will always be treasured by God because they belong to his beloved sons who belong to him. All power and glory are yours because the kingdom is his. So once you start, you'll have to unmute, Suzanne.
Can you read it again? Can you read that paragraph again, please?
I can. Do you want me to interpret it?
Yes, interpret it.
Perceive any part of the ego's thought system. So what is the part of ego's thought system? Lack, anger, frustration, jealousy, hatred. Perceive any part of the ego's thought system as wholly insane. We're going to say any of those things are wholly insane, and they're wholly delusional, and they're wholly undesirable, and you've correctly evaluated all of it. You've evaluated all of spirit. If you think any part of, you've correctly evaluated all of ego, if you think any part of ego is insane, because it is. See, that's just the opposite of what I was saying before about how, you have to, it's one way or the other. You have to either see spirit in all, or if
Every aspect of ego is insane. Every aspect.
every aspect of ego is insane. Yes,
Because ego always separates us from each other and God.
correct.
And it does that by judgment.
By being itself. That's what ego does. That's its job.
Its job is to separate us from other people.
Yeah. And so separate us from ourselves, to separate us from spirit. That's ego's job. That's what it does all the time, 24/7.
Why does ego exist?
Because we created it. Because we thought we could separate ourselves from our Father, thus creating the ego. That the ego's our creation. By having that mad thought that we could separate ourselves from God. And as long as we think we are separated from God, we're in the ego that we created. The only way out of it is to realize that we never did separate ourselves from God. It's impossible to separate ourselves from God. We've always been one with God, and we always will be one with God.
Well, situations like where they're recreating people and they're recreating organs and they're recreating all kinds of things, where would you put that?
That's all part of the ego illusion. Perceive any part of the ego's thought system as wholly insane, wholly delusional, and wholly undesirable, and you have correctly evaluated all of it. This correction enables you to perceive any part of creation as wholly real. In other words, of what God created.
Well, let me
Wholly,
ask you a question. What about artwork? What about art?
what about art?
Well, art is created separately, one by one, differently from other artists. That's not ego-based in any way?
What we create in the physical world, if it is created, how shall I say, with love,
Mm-hmm.
with spiritual gifts, our talents, artistic talents, musical talents, poetic talents, and all of this, those are gifts from spirit.
Okay.
And so that what we create out of that is spirit created. If we're creating out of anger, fear, jealousy, attack, then it's ego created. But
Well, many
but
films,
everything in the physical world, no matter if it's created with love or not, is still an illusion.
mm. Well, I mean, some art is created the way you just said, okay? But I also know screenwriters who gather as a group, and what they go by a book, you know, you hit your note here, you hit your note there. They're making something that they hope will be marketable. It's got nothing to do with spirit, okay? But it's still being created, okay? It's a totally different petri dish from which it comes. So you can't blanket it. I mean, it's just all, it has to do with the individual and how touched by God and connected by God that individual is, right?
Well, let's say intention.
Intention. Intention,
Let's throw intention in the work.
right. You mean if it just is sprung from God, sprung from the heart, and put on paper or whatever, that's one thing. But if the intention is in fact greed and fame and all the rest of it, that's a whole other thing, right?
Yes and no. You know, I'm not a.
Well, I'm just saying.
You pose a very interesting question, and it's a little bit difficult for me to explain it in terms of the course of the ego and the spirit. So I'm kind of just talking off the top of my head here, but I'm going to say, you know, we have things that are like written. Some people write things for the newspapers or magazines or something that put people down, that attack people, what have you. To me, that's obviously ego driven. Then we have other writings from the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu and other people that are inspiring things that are trying to, or like this writing itself of the Course in Miracles, that are trying to uplift us and show us, give us spiritual ideas. So, you know, and I guess the same can be said for music and art and everything else. It's like,
It depends on the
what
genesis. Yeah, it depends on
what's your intention in creating it? You know, what's your purpose? What do
well, you know, I think that someone like you, or I know me, I mean, certain plays I've written came forth like messages from God. You know, I had to write it. You know, I didn't even write it, basically. So I know where that comes from. And then I've seen friends, because I know a lot of writers, who, you know, a totally different impetus, you know, and very well written, but not from the heart. You know, I just, there's a big difference, that's all. And I don't want to judge them, but there is a difference.
Right. And nobody really knows what's going on inside the person who's creating.
No, they come out and tell you, I'm gonna make money with this.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no, I mean,
Well,
that's the whole point. I mean, it's just different. It's just different.
well,
And
we all need money in the physical world, in the society we live. And
Yeah.
again, that's not necessarily
The bad
something that's negative.
it's just, I'm just trying to understand it for myself.
I understand, and
um,
I'm trying to help. But
I mean, everything I've ever written has been led like a message, it's come out. Well, yeah, not, not always, but yeah, everything, actually, everything I've ever gotten published has been come out like that. I just don't know.
well, I'm going to suggest that as long as you know where your art is coming from, then that's all you need to know. You
That's all you
really don't you need to be concerned about what other people are creating or what their motives are or where it's coming from.
I'm not concerned with it. I just want to make sure that I don't go afield, I just.
Well, you know within yourself, so you don't really have to worry about that.
I know, I'm just asking,
Okay.
we lost David.
Yeah, he had to go on.
He had another place to go to.
Yes, he did. He already had another engagement for this evening.
Oh. Did you go check that woman out for Monday?
All right, let's not get off topic, please,
Okay.
because we're still recording here. So are there any other questions about the lesson for
Gives
today?
you offer the ego, all the experiences, sacrifices are always, oh, that's interesting. And the gifts you offer the kingdom are gifts to you. That makes sense. They will always be treasured by God because they belong to Him. Oh, I understand this.
Oh, good.
I understand it.
All
I'm glad
righty.
you're here today. Did you go? Can we talk about it Monday? Did you go to that?
So I'm going to ask that we have a moment of silence,
Okay.
and then we'll end the recording for tonight, okay?
Okay.